am glad to be here. It was like 8 o'clock last night. He texted me, hey, man, I might not be able to make it back. And I said, all right, what do you need? And he goes, can you just kind of do a sermon? So if you are new and you're just visiting for the first time, I'm Kevin, like he said. But, man, if it's a bad message, it's because I'm on the clock, right? So, but no, it is good to be in a family church where we can live and breathe together and hear each other's stories. So I said, hey, maybe today I get to slow it down and tell you about our story. So I'm going to go off the sermon series a little bit. So next week we'll continue in our sermon series about the life hacks. Today it's going to be about Kevin and his story and how God has given him a redeemed life through some of the relationships he's had. And the most important relationship is past June, my wife and I, Hannah over here, we celebrated 21 years. 21 years. 21 years. And I remember, I just wanted to give you a perspective what 21 years look like. Year one, this is what we look like. So year one picture, boom. All right, look at that. Hannah got a purple hair. Kevin had hair. This is down in Fountain Valley, where like down Little Saigon. So that's year one. We're all lovey-dovey. We're all feeling good. All right, year 10. Year 10, looking like this. Look at that. Still looking fresh, looking clean. Hannah, she straightened up. She matured a little bit more. She's not 16. There you go. Okay, so that's year 10. All right, before we get to year 21, I just need you to know year 21, hey, young people, we all age. We all age. We all lose hair. We all gain a little weight. You ain't movie stars. So year 21, this was last summer. We were in Nashville. So now we're at the waterfalls, and we're just chilling out here. And so year 21 is still good and vibrant. God has been good to us, and thank you for the prayers for us as we've continued to work on year 22. And I don't know what we did for year 21 or for a honeymoon. I mean, not honeymoon. What did we do for year 21? We just went to Nashville, and that was it. That's it. But we're going to do something in year 22. It'll be special. All right. Okay. Now, this is how it starts off. When Moses and I first met, the natural question is, all right, so really, no, how'd you guys meet, right? That's the question, right? You're at a coffee talk with Kevin. I remember Moses and I, we were at an Angel game when we first met together, and he asked the question, how'd you guys meet, right? And so there's always two sides of the story. I'm going to give you my truthful side. If you want to talk to Hannah after the service, she will give you the other half, okay? All right, so I will tell you this, though. It did start with, here's the story. So in Asian culture, my wife and I, we came up from a Vietnamese family. And when I tell you the story, this is nothing awkward. But basically, my mother and father were pastors, and they were visiting a pastor's house in Atlanta. And so when they were in Atlanta, they were visiting. They hung out with other friends in the church network. And at that point, my mom, and I'm in my early 20s, my mom just has this problem of like asking everybody if they're single for her son. Does it make sense? That's just how it works. And so at this house, Hannah was visiting the friend. There was a daughter friend about this. She was there in Atlanta doing pharmacy school. And my mom, sees her in the corner of her eye, and she goes, hey, come over here. Now, Hannah, a compliant Asian girl, comes over, and my mother says, this is true story. This is how it works. I'm going to translate it to you. She goes, do you have any friends? Now, in Vietnamese language, do you have any friends translates to, are you single? Does this make sense? Are you seeing someone? So imagine you're at a dinner table. Are you seeing someone? And so Hannah says, hey, so do you have any friends? And Hannah knows what that means. And Hannah says in our language, no, I don't have any friends. And then my mother says, oh, my son doesn't have friends either. Does this make us, this is very awkward. I'm not here. I'm in California. She's in Atlanta. So my doesn't have any friends, and she doesn't have any friends. And so my mom, of course, as a good mother she is, she goes, hey, would you like to be friends with my son? Okay, I'm breaking down right now. I'm like, this is. Imagine me hearing this later, right? So then Hannah's like, yeah. So they exchange information. My mom said, hey, give me your email address, and I'll have my son email you. Okay? Now, Hannah at this point is like, okay. Choice A is like, if he's not going to email me, no harm, no foul. So she gives the email address to my mom. The other choice is if he emails me, he's a loser. Complete loser, right? Who does this stuff, right? So mom comes home, and somehow she convinced me, or actually threatened me, to email Hannah. That's another story in itself, all right? We don't have enough time for that. But would you like to see the first email ever written? Because at some point, Everybody asks the question like, Kevin, what did you say to get her to say yes, right? At some point. And so, gentlemen, honestly, I don't know how. Think about this. Think about this is pre-Facebook, pre-social media, pre-Tinder, pre-everything. All right? How do you get Hannah to email you back? That's the objective here. I mean, it's almost like a challenge, it's a game. You ready? All right, Mike's like over here. All right. I'm reading. This is February 19th, 2003. All right, 21 years ago. All right. Subject. All right, ladies, let's see if you would answer this. West Coast greeting to an East Coast girl. Are you clicking on this? No one's clicking in. No. No. All right. Okay, so hello, Hannah. Who are you? I bet that should be the first question in your mind. No, this is not spam mail or junk mail. However, after you read my silly attempts to entertain you, you might think this is junk mail. But first, let me try to catch your attention. I got to say something, right? Yeah. You know, at some point, you're like, my mommy gave me your email. Okay. You must have been a very special person for my mom to constantly talk about you. Ever since my parents returned home from Atlanta, they have continually ranting and raving about this particular individual over there in Georgia. Not a minute goes by when my mother calls me and reminds me of a splendid time she had with you. To me, that means a lot. It's okay, right? Soft landing. Mama's boy yet? It gets worse, guys. My parents do not often bring up topics of younger people to me, but in this instance, your name has been mentioned quite often, on a good note, of course. Thus, my curiosity was aroused. Did I write my curiosity is aroused? Wow, I told you it gets worse. It gets so worse. Wow. First email. Hey, note to self, don't say aroused in your first email. Now, I do want you to know that Hannah was a good sport, and then the email responses started coming back and forth. And so that was the beginning of Kevin and Hannah time. So round of applause for Hannah for answering my email. Whew, aroused. Now, friends, even though our awkward love story is awkward in many ways, I do want you to know that whether it's any love stories all have a common ingredient, right? We all have a love story. And that love story, no matter how bad or how awkward, how weird or how old school it was, there is a common ingredient. And that common ingredient is that there is always someone pursuing someone. Does that make sense? In every love story, there is someone pursuing someone else. And that's exactly what I want to take our time today. In the Bible, there is this awkward love story that we're going to talk about. It's in the book of Ruth. If you have your Bibles with me, feel free. It's in the Old Testament book of Ruth. I will have some passages up here to look at. But in this little short book of Ruth, there is this love story, this awkward romance love story. But it's more than that. It's also a redemption story. For some of us here today, and you know, we might be in between love stories, but there's a love story that God wants to tell you today. And it's not just a love story of romance, but it's a redemption story. A story of brokenness into a story of redemption. And maybe that's where you are today, and hopefully that's where we can be encouraged today as well. And so here's the big picture. There is this story of two women in the Bible. So in Ruth chapter 1, it starts like this. The story starts with heartbreak. Heartbreak. And you may be in a season of heartbreak right now. Not heartbreak between two lovers maybe, but heartbreak at work, a heartbreak at church, a heartbreak with friends, heartbreak somewhere. But this story opens up with two women, Naomi and Ruth. Naomi and Ruth. It started with bitterness, it started with grieving, and it started with they are crushed by loss. Now Ruth was this young widow, and she was from a despised country. So Ruth is the key character here. She's from this country called Moab. All right, it's a despised country in the Old Testament. For some cultures, there are some countries you just don't want to get along with, and that's how it was here. So this country is Moab, and they had moved to the country of Moab because there was a famine in present-day Israel. So they were all living in Israel, and the family moved to Moab, and that's how we find the story, and we're going to pick up here. And along the way, we find that there is this beautiful picture of that God is pursuing Ruth this whole way during her heartbreak. And that's where we want to pick up, and that's where I want to talk about the big idea. The big idea, as we're walking away today, is that the story is a story, and we just sung this song, it's your story too. So as I share this story with you, and we're going to go through this verse by verse, we're going to find out that this story not only applies to Ruth, but applies to us. That our story is written here. And so hopefully as you're reading along with me, I want you to picture that. This is a story for you. That's why I titled this message, Who Would Love Someone Like Me? Who would love someone like me? And we'll find out where that is. So Ruth chapter 2, we're going to find this is where it is. We're going to learn about 4 marks of a redeemer. When I say 4 marks, there's going to be 4 bullet points. If you want to take pictures, feel free to take pictures of the notes and slides. But first, I want to talk to you about what a redeemer means. On the next slide here, this story, redeemer, is going to come up. This is a word that I want you to know. A redeemer steps into heal what's broken and restore what's been lost. So there's going to be a hero of the story. There is going to be a Superman of this story. And this Superman is what we call a redeemer. So a redeemer steps in to heal what's broken and what's lost. All right? Not just in status, but in our soul as well. In today's term, a redeemer is someone who shows up when you're grieving. A redeemer is someone who shows up when you're isolated, when you're crushed, not just to fix your situation, but to actually heal your life. All right? So we don't use that term redeemer now, but it's basically someone who's going to come and rescue us at some point in time. In your mind, answer this question. Haven't you ever been in some place, in some form or fashion, and you just yell out, God, send someone to help me. I need a break. You're asking for a redeemer. God, friend, mom, dad, I am lost. I don't know what's going on. I need help. You're looking for a redeemer. Does that make sense? And so we don't use the term redeemer, but we do call out for a redeemer at some point in time. And so here's the background. The family started off with the father. His name is Elimelech. He is the father, and he marries a wife named Naomi. They have 2 sons, right? 2 sons. And what happened was there was a famine, a depression time hit the country of Canaan, or is present-day Israel, and they moved their family to the country next door. All right, so it's like USA moving to Canada, USA moving to Mexico, something like that. And this country was called Moab. Now, Moab was not a good country. In the Bible, it talks about they were known for 2 things. They were known for like kind of a scandalous types of people. The culture was scandalous, kind of like you can't trust them. And the other part of the culture was the women were very seductive. So scandalous and seduction, all right? That's how we would think of it in the Bible terms. And so these, the rule of thumb here was they would tell the 2 sons, hey, sons, don't marry Moab women. We're moving to this country. Don't marry them. So what do you think they did? They married the 2 Moabite women, and so now their 2 sons married 2 Moabite women. Now, this reminds me of a story in college. I remember I was going to take home this girl to see my mother. We're getting there. We hit 1 date, 2 dates, and now it's time to go visit mom. And I remember taking her home. Now, I'm not going to tell you what ethnicity is because I'll probably get hate emails from you guys, but she was not my ethnicity. All right, you following? All right, so I'm taking her home. Hey, Mom, I'm going to bring home my girlfriend. And my mom, first question is, what do you think? Where is she from? Where is she from? And I said the ethnicity, country she was from, and she's like, what? Huh? You can't bring her home. And so at this point in time, as you can see, this happens all the time for us. My mom had this stereotype, this prejudice, which we don't condone today, but it's just something inside of her. Her culture had said, you don't date these types of people. So in the Israelite time, this is exactly what happened. You guys, you're following? All right, so what happens? Well, the 2 sons died, and Father Elimelech dies. So now there's 3 women left in the family in the country of Moab. Naomi, the mother, she says to her 2 daughters, daughter number 1 and daughter number 2. One of them was Ruth, and said, hey, girls, I get it. There's nothing for me here. I got to go back home. I got no family here. I need to move home. We're broke. It's famine time. I'm going to leave. But you 2 women, you're still young. You still look great. Stay in your country. Go have new family. One woman says, one daughter says, okay, I'm out. I'm staying. But Ruth says the most important line in the book of Ruth, and I think you may have heard it, but she says this: where you go, I will go. And your God will be my God. And that shows you the loyalty of this daughter-in-law from a country that was hated. is willing to follow her mother-in-law back to the country that hates her. Does this make sense? If you're an immigrant today, if you are a foreigner or you're an outsider or you feel like you're an outcast in society, this story fits you. This story fits you because hits home, especially in this time and age, especially in California. So as we continue the story, I want you to know that here we find the story of loyalty kicking up. And so now I want to give you a second word. So we talked about redeemer. Now I'm going to give you a definition of the second one. Ruth is what we called a destitute. Let's look at this word, a destitute. Now, you're like, what's a destitute? Here on the screen, look with me. A destitute refers to being completely without resources, protection, or social standing. Physically and economically, relationally, and spiritually vulnerable, which with no means of saving oneself. Do you ever feel like you're a destitute? Has there been a point in your life, a point in your time that you feel like this word? Where I have feel abandoned. I feel crushed. I have no physical means. I have no financial resources. He left me, she left me, they left me. All of that. Have you been that way? Because this is what Ruth is feeling as we speak. Ruth and Naomi, the two ladies, are left in destitution. And the cool part of the story is that this story reminds us that God loves to write redemption stories, which I talked about earlier, and that he loves to redeem those who are broken. God sometimes ordains tragedy in our lives to set the stage for a surprising triumph. And when God seems furthest from you and in your suffering, he may be setting the stage for a surprise moment of relief. And for some of you, there is a world back home that you just want to forget for the next few months. But I want you to know this. Do not despair. There is hope. And so chapter 1 starts like that. But guess what? Chapter 2, which we're about to read, hope arrives on the scene. Who in here wants to have hope arriving on the scene today, in this moment? Let's read with me chapter 2 up on the screen. As we read chapter 2, 1 through 5, I want to read it with you. We're going to take this whole chapter together, but it's going to be fun because it's a sign of hope. Now, there was a wealthy and influential man in Bethlehem named Boaz, who was a relative of Naomi's husband, Elimelech. One day, Ruth, the Moabite, said to Naomi, "Let me go out to the harvest fields to pick up the stalks of grain left behind by anyone who is kind enough to let me do it." And Naomi replied, "All right, my daughter, go ahead." And so Ruth went out to gather grains behind the harvesters. And as it happened, she found herself working the field that belonged to Boaz, the relative of her father-in-law, Elimelech. And while she was there, Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. "The Lord be with you," he said, and asked his foreman, "Who is that young woman over there? Who does she belong to?" Stop there. Chapter 2 opens up like a sunrise on a long night. And I bet you a lot of us are waiting for that sunrise. We're told that this man is named Boaz, and that's the hero of our story, to be honest with you, a relative of Naomi's late husband. And meanwhile, Ruth is still unknown. She is unseen by most. As you can see in the story, they don't even know who she is. They don't care what she is. She's gleaning the field, not to make a living, but to survive the next day. Friends, are you in that situation? You're just trying to survive the next day. You're just scrapping by. You're hoping for a break. Maybe this job will go this way. This interview will go that way. Maybe this girl, this guy will fix my last bad relationship. This is it. This is Ruth's story, which is your story and my story. There is a moment here where we're like, whoa, what just happened? And then you see the hero popping up. And that name is Boaz. And she happens to be part of the field is in verse 3. So go up on the screen there. You see verse 3? And when I say she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, I want to say this to you. There is nothing accidental in what God is doing in your life. There is no accidental of whatever situation you're in, because this is not accidental. Somehow, some way, Ruth is in this field. And somehow, some way, Boaz happened to be there on that day. And somehow, some way, hope begins. Are you following me? Nothing is random in her story. every detail in our lives. God is behind the scenes, orchestrating what feels like coincidence into a redemption collision. And there sets up our story. Now, cue the moment the knight in shining armor shows up, and while he walks the field, he's blessing people. Hey, glad to see you, glad you're here. Then he stops mid-sentence and he says, whoa, look at that Hannah chick there. No, he didn't say that. You see, he says, what is young woman over there? He didn't say this. Notice this. Why is she here gleaning on fields? Why is she dumpster diving? Why is she picking? Why is she? He didn't ask that. He wasn't concerned with what she is doing. He was concerned with who she is. Isn't that great that God does that to us? He doesn't care what you're doing. He cares who you are. Boaz wanted to know who the identity of the person is, not the activity of the person. Boaz saw something that everybody overlooked, and that is the turning point of Ruth's story. And that is what a redeemer does. We talk about that word redeemer. Redeemer seeks the overlooked. He seeks the outcast. He seeks the grieving. He doesn't just tolerate the brokenness. He pursues them and claims them as his own. And Ruth was a Moabite. Remember this, folks. Immigrant, despised. She was a widow. She was poor. She was foreign, socially invisible. But the Redeemer looks past these labels. And that goes to the first mark of the Redeemer. If you want to know what a Redeemer looks like or what this person is, up on the screen, first point, take a picture if you like. The Redeemer seeks out the destitute to give them hope. You're not waiting for anything. You're not asking. He already knows and he already sees you. He seeks out the destitute to give them hope. If you're looking for hope and you're feeling like you hear nothing, he's already looking. He already sees and he already knows. Maybe today you feel like Ruth, just trying to survive unnoticed by most. Unsure of what God's doing with your life. But take heart, you don't have to strive any harder. The Redeemer is there. He already sees you. What seems like a field of scraps is actually a place of divine appointment. Let's read along. Let's see how this magical story happens. Ruth 6:2-6. And the foreman replied, she is that young woman from the Moab country who came back with Naomi. She asked me this morning if she can gather grain behind the harvesters. She has been hard at work ever since, except for a few minutes, resting in the shelter. Boaz went over there and said to Ruth, listen, my daughter, stay right here with us. When you gather grain, don't go to any other fields. Just stay right behind the young women working in my field. See which part of the field they are harvesting and then follow them. I have warned the young men to not treat you roughly. And when you are thirsty, help yourself to water. They have drawn from the well. Next slide. Ruth fell at his feet and thanked him warmly. What have I done to deserve such kindness? She asked. I'm only a foreigner. Yes, I know, Boaz replied, but I also know about everything you've done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. I have heard how you left your father and mother, your own land, to live here among complete strangers. May the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge, reward you fully for what you have done. I hope to continue to please you, sir, she replied. You have comforted me by speaking so kindly to me, even though I am not one of your workers. You know, in that time, it was very dangerous for women to be in this situation. This is very much like a modern-day workplace harassment situation, okay? So a woman or man, whatever the situation is, this is like, this was not a paid for play. This was not do this and I'll give you benefits. If you do this, I give you rewards. And that's what I want to get at. He could have done any of that back then because there was no HR laws then. There was no HR team. Boaz could have done what he wished and what he willed. But he didn't. The Redeemer does something very uniquely different. And he did a couple things. If you notice, he did. The first one, he gave instructions. Don't touch her. Don't touch her. She gets to get anything she wants. She gets the break room snacks. She gets the fridge rights. Don't touch her. And if you touch her, I'm going to get you. He didn't ask for any benefits. Men, single men, dating rule number 101. It's how you treat women. That's a side advice. There is no, if you do this, I get this. And that's a good story here to learn. So that's a side note for all the single men in the room. But here, Ruth asked the question, why me? Why me, a foreigner? Why me, a social outcast? Why me, an immigrant? The Lord of the harvest has sought her out to protect her. And this is the important part. It was her faithfulness. Remember I talked to you about it was her loyalty. Boaz knew of her loyalty, her faith. She said yes to her mother-in-law to go to a place that did not want to have her working, a place that did not like her, a place that didn't see her in the light, the best of light. But I know about your reputation. And that's probably one of the most important verses of the entire book, that the Lord of the harvest has sought her out and is protecting her in the field. The Redeemer seeks you out, and the Redeemer is going to protect you. The Redeemer in your moment of darkest moment is there, and he will protect you. But you got to be faithful. You got to be loyal. You got to say yes to him. Is that making sense? You tracking? It's not just the love story of Ruth, right? It's our story. All right. She's overwhelmed, not just by the provision, but by being seen. She's overwhelmed by being seen, not because she's getting the scraps. She's overwhelmed because the Redeemer says, I know you, and I've seen you. I see you for who you are. Isn't that great? You don't have to do anything. You don't have to work so hard for this faith, because the Lord just wants you to take a step of faith first, and he sees you. He sees you. All right, mark number 2. The Redeemer saves the destitute from harm. The Redeemer saves the destitute from harm. He doesn't just save us from hell, the Lord. He saves us from harm here and now. It's not just hell he's saving you from. It's now, from shame, from danger, from the world that can be brutally painful to you and me. When we are at our most vulnerable, the Redeemer saves us. Christianity isn't just about when I die, I go to heaven. Christianity is where you can live now, in the now. And you have a Redeemer who wants to live with you and redeem you. So continuing our story in Ruth chapter 2, how does this continue on? We get to the first date, the glimpse of the first date. That's another story for me and Hannah. Some other time you can ask her what our first date was like. True story. It was medieval times. At mealtime, Boaz called her. Come over here and help yourself to some food. You can dip your bread in this sour wine. Look at that, sour wine. What a great meal there. She sat with this harvester, and Boaz gave her some roasted grain. Yum, rice and wine. And she ate all she wanted still and had some left over. When Ruth went back to work again, Boaz ordered his young men, let her gather grain among the sheaves without stopping her, and pull out some heads of barley from the bundles and drop them on purpose for her. Oh, check this out. This guy isn't just like, he's not just giving her food, but he's also telling the workers, hey man, make sure you leave some good scraps for her. Good scraps. Let her pick it up and don't give her a hard time. Again, protection. So Ruth gathered barley there all day, and when she beat out the grain that evening, it filled up her entire basket. She carried it back to town and showed it to her mother-in-law. Ruth also gave her the roasted grain that was left over from her meal. Boaz doesn't just supply her with food, he dignifies her with her presence. Boaz wants a relationship. He wants to know her as a person, not just say, here's some scraps. Not say, here's $1, go buy something. The Redeemer wants a relationship with you and me. He sees you as Kevin Nguyen. He wants to enjoy your company. He doesn't want to just bless you and say, God, get me out of here, get me a new job. No, I want to give you a new job, but I want to also have a relationship with you. I want to see you for who you are. I want to see the best in you. I'm rooting for you. I'm not just protecting you, but I want to shine light on you. And not only do I want to feed you and resource you, I want to give you so much, so plentiful, that you have enough to share with other people. I want to give you so much and so satisfying, it says, satisfying that you can bless other people, like your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, your brothers, your sister, your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers. You are blessed abundantly, because when you started with a story of nothing, I'm going to give you a story of something, and I'm going to bless you. And in this dating story, it reminds me of a story that tells me what it felt like when we were first dating. So now we got to talk about dating stories, right? There's a joke out there, if you can kind of tell, when you're sitting there, Hannah and I, at this season of our life, we like to people watch when people eat. Does that make sense? Do you guys do that? Yeah, in the first year of marriage, you're kind of like, all right, let's do everything together. We just focus on each other, right? In the 21st year of marriage, we're just like staring at everybody else's train wrecks. True story. You guys probably do it too. Don't judge me. So there is a way to tell people how long they've been dating, right? You could tell if they've been dating for a long time or a short period of time. So one of the best ways is go to Yogurtland. You'll find out. So Yogurtland. Do they still have Yogurtland around here? It might be like I'm outdated here. Okay, it's fine. So year one of Yogurtland, Hannah and I, you could tell right away if you're dating because we share everything. It's like, you go into the Yogurtland store, like, it's two people with one spoon. Does that make sense? Two people, one cup, one spoon. So Hannah and I be sharing. Oh, here you get some. Oh, no, here you get some. And, this flavor, you're just doing this whole motion, right? It makes sense? Year 21, 2 cups, 2 spoons. You're on your own. Does that make sense? So that's how it works. So if you see 2 cups, 2 spoons, that's a long-term relationship. You see 1 spoon, 1 cup, they're newlyweds. Whatever. All right. Is that true? Come on, that's so true. You guys know that. Dating rules still apply here. The Redeemer serves his beloved. The Redeemer is in love with you. And he serves his beloved. This reminds me of the Last Supper when Jesus was about to do the Last Supper. He's about to die. And what's his first action as his disciples are showing up at the house, ready for supper? He's washing their feet. He's serving them. And he tells them that I'm going to a better place, and prepare a room for you. So not only do we have a seat next to our beloved Lord of the harvest, not only is he feeding us and giving us refuge, he serves us. And I don't want you to miss this. Ruth goes from an outsider to an insider. At this point in the story, she goes from a gleaner of scraps to an honored guest at the table. From stranger to someone with a seat at the table. And the third mark of the Redeemer up on the screen, the Redeemer serves the destitute at his table. This story gets better and better. This story is not about scraps. This is not a story of rags to riches. It is a story that the Redeemer is pursuing you and chasing you this whole time, and he wants to give you something better. And he invites you to his house. He invites you to the table, and he says, you have a place here. You have a name here. I know your life. I want to know your life, and I want to give you more. How does this sound? You've lost everything. And now she's sitting at the seat with the Lord of the harvest. Beginning of chapter 2, there was no food, no one to care for, no family except 2 women who hate the world and who's bitter with no hope. Now we see here Ruth is enjoying a meal with the Lord of the harvest. How quickly the Redeemer is being redeemed. The Redeemer is doing the redeemed. It reminds us of the story in the Songs of Solomon when he says, he brought me into the banquet hall and he looked at me with love. He didn't look at me because of the benefits. He didn't look at me because of what I'm willing to do. He looked with me with love. Not because what you can do for me, but with love. That's how the Redeemer sees you and me. You're my child. You don't owe me anything. I love you. And I want you to be a part of my family. Oh, how does the Bible describe what it feels like to after the meal? It felt satisfactory. Is that when you taste and when you are redeemed, it feels so satisfactory. Feels good. You don't have to keep coming back and back and back. He's got you. This is what our Redeemer Jesus does. He doesn't just save us. He seats us. He doesn't just forgive us. He invites us into communion. And so the rest of chapter 3, this is chapter 2, the story goes on, and I don't want to read chapter 3, but let me just summarize it. So Ruth returns home. Gives mom all the food and tells mom, hey, I met this boy, right? I met this guy. And she learns really quick that Boaz is this very special close relative, a family redeemer. Okay, I'm going to explain to you what that means in a little bit. She saw God's hands of kindness in the field, and then her mom, Naomi, and her, they encouraged Ruth Naomi encourages Ruth to continue the conversation with Boaz. And so the rest of chapter 3, they kind of have this, not a scheme, but a plan to get his trust. And then Boaz, now has his next move. The Redeemer, the hero of the story, is setting up the stage for the final act. And then we're going to get to the fourth mark. So let me tell you what the role of the Redeemer is. So when I talked to you about what a Redeemer does, but let me tell you his role. This role, the hero has a role. And so back in Israelite culture, there was this thing called a kinsman redeemer. Kinsman meaning family, redeemer. There's a redeemer, and they had several responsibilities when someone died in the family. So I want you to know, some of the cultures out here, you understand when someone dies in the family, you have to do something, right? So it's like two sisters. You have a father who passed away, and he's in North Carolina. You have to have this conversation. So who's going to take care of dad? Who's going to move dad home or mom home? Who's going to do all the logistical planning? Does that make sense? So whatever it is, there was logistical planning. And so up on the screen, there are 3 roles that a kinsman redeemer had to do. All right? So when there was a death in the family and there was no one to take care of Naomi and Ruth, this is what a family redeemer had to do. Now, Boaz is not that person yet. This is what they need to be redeemed in life. Number 1, they had to be a relative. They had to be a family member to take care. Right? That was the responsibility of the family back then. I bet you here in this culture, same way. Whatever your family dynamics is, someone has to take care of mom when dad dies. Someone has to take care of the brother when all the other siblings move away. Is this making sense? So it had to be a family member. Number 2, they had to have the resources to purchase it. Right? So let's just say my parents passed away. It's my sister and myself, but my sister is broke. And she goes, I'll take care of dad. I'm like, you got no money. So how are you going to do it? So you had to have the resources. So not only you had to be a relative, you had to have the resource to take care of the entire family, to take care of mom and everything else and all her 20 pets, right? You get that? And number 3, the Redeemer had to have the resolve to do it, the willingness to do it, the I want to redeem. It's not my have to, but is my want to. Are you following? So it's very important for a family redeemer to do this. So now I want to read chapter 4 because now the story sets up the final act, the final mark of redeemer. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to come back and summarize a little bit. Boaz went to the town gate and took a seat there. And just then the family redeemer, so there was someone first in line, he had mentioned came by. So Boaz called out to him, hey, come over here and sit down, friend. I want to talk to you about something. So they sat down together, and Boaz said to the family redeemer, you know Naomi, you remember her husband passed away, all that bad stuff that happened to her? Well, who came back from Moab? She is selling the land that belonged to the relative Elimelech. Okay, so imagine 2 dudes at Starbucks just chatting away. Remember that the relative of ours, something bad happened to her? Okay. Well, I thought I should speak to you about it so that you can redeem it if you wish. Hey, so do you want to take care of her? I mean, you could take all that. Now, remember when I say take care of it, you assume all the assets and all the liabilities of that family. So, hey, you want first shot at her? If you want the land, then go ahead and buy it here in the presence of these witnesses. But if you don't want it, let me know right away because I'm next in line to redeem it after you. So, sitting at Starbucks, we're chatting away. You want to do this, but you also get the house. If you take care of mom, you get the house. You don't take care of the mom, then, hey, if you don't want it, I'll take care of it. Does that make sense? You following? Very normal. We do this all the time in our world. The man replied, all right, I'll redeem it because, you're going to find out why. Next slide. Then Boaz told him, by the way, of course, you purchased the land from Naomi. He also requires you to marry Ruth, the Moabite widow. That way she can have children who will carry on her husband's name and keep the land in the family. Then I can't redeem it, the family redeemer replied, because this might endanger my own estate. You redeem the land, I cannot do it. Pause. Remember I told you the resolve. This guy had the resources, he was a relative, but he did not have the resolve to do it. And what triggered him? So the first thing was this. He was thinking, wait, if I take care of the sister, I get the house, I get the 401k, I get the benefits. But then Boaz reminded him, but you got to take care of the other people. The one that we hate, the people we hate, the homeless one, the crazy one, the one that's from the other country. You got to take care of that person too. And what did he say? He said, I will bypass the benefits and the profits because I do not want that one person in my family. And Boaz responds this way. Next slide. Is there another one? If not, I don't That's all I have? Okay. That's fine. I don't need it. Boaz actually says, I'll take her. Not for the profit, not for the home, not for the properties, but because I love her and I want her in my family. Not for what she can do, not because she's some person I can't redeem, but because I want Ruth. God is saying that to you and me as we speak. Not because you owe him anything, not because you have some awesome value to give, some wonderful gift you can help the church, but because the Redeemer wants you in his family. So what is mark number 4? Mark number 4 is this. He showers the destitute with his grace. Grace isn't just about this rescue mission. It's a restoration. You were not just forgiven. You were claimed. You were loved. And you were brought into the family line of God. Ruth may not have understood at this time. You may not have understood at this moment. But that's what grace means. You don't understand it, but it comes. You don't understand why God loves you and why God chose you. But he was walking one day in the fields and he saw you. And he says, I want you. I want you in my family. I want you to feel the satisfaction of being loved again. Now, where do we go from here, my friends? As we land this plane, we need to come to a decision point. Who are you in this story? Where do you want to be in this story? I told you this story is your story. It's not Ruth's story anymore. Ruth is done. But you have a decision to make. And from this love story, Boaz saw Ruth, and he chose her, and he covered her with grace. But Boaz is just a shadow of what the real Redeemer is. The real Redeemer is Jesus. The real Redeemer is Jesus Christ, who is the real Redeemer for all of us. Boaz was just, if you thought he was a cool story, Jesus is the best story. And just like Ruth, Jesus is relentlessly pursuing you and me, who did nothing. He does not recoil in our shame. He does not step back because you're not beneficial or profitable, but he steps in because he wants to do it. And check this out. He wants to do it publicly. Boaz had to do this publicly. Boaz had to redeem her in front of all the witnesses. And Jesus says, I want to redeem you in front of everybody. And the Bible reminds us this, that in him we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins, according to the riches of his graces. Ruth's story is our story too. And so therefore, Ruth's story started with a tragedy, just like some of us in this room and us online. Family, funerals, foreigners. She was scraping by, getting scraps. But along comes the Messiah to redeem us, to redeem her. And that's what we want. And that's what we need. And that's why this story never gets old. I'd like you to bow your heads with me. I want to ask you a few questions. I think there's some moments here, a decision that you have to make. And I want you to consider these questions. To those who've been redeemed, those who've been saved, but you lost sight of your first love, maybe it's time for you to think again. Maybe it's time to rekindle that love again. Maybe your heart felt a little distracted over the last few years. Maybe it felt numb. Whatever it is, it's okay. God still wants to seek you, and God wants to redeem you because he wants you to see something more. He wants you to be like those harvesters in the field. There are many Ruths out there, and I want you to look after them, and I want you to help me. And maybe you're thinking, man, God, that's too messy. Man, that's going to cost too much. Nope. The Spirit is poking at you right now. Lord, stretch my heart. Open my eyes. Don't let me walk past the wounded. Make me more like Boaz. Okay, that's you. Let that sit a little moment. Now, for the rest of you in this room, you are feeling like Ruth. Ruth, that is me. That is exactly me. I am feeling isolated. I am feeling overwhelmed. Man or woman in this room, well, you came You came here today scraping by, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially. Maybe life it's just been so long this last season. And you're thinking just like Ruth, I just need a break. I just need someone. Well, then hear this out, my friend. The Redeemer is already watching you. He sees you. He's already coming for you. And his invitation still stands. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. I need you to say yes. In your mind, in your heart, that is what you need to say yes to. I need a Redeemer, and that is Jesus Christ. I say yes to you. Let him lift you up. Let him love you. Let him restore you.
South Hills Church, I just want to take a moment and say thank you for watching our service online. Whether you're watching it for the first time or you're watching it again because you enjoyed the service so much from the weekend, I'd like to take a moment and dive into our giving. Every week we give people the opportunity to give back and give to the local church so that God can continue to bless your lives and bless your finances. Here at South Hills, we believe that everything comes from God. We believe that He's the one that chose us and brought us into this world, gave us our gifts and talents and abilities. And I just want you to know that when we give, we are giving back what God has already given to us. If you've ever seen any of our envelopes at a South Hills campus, you'll see on there that it says, every week at South Hills, your generosity is giving people the opportunity to live a better story. And there's a scripture on there in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21 that says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So I want to encourage you today to click down below and set up your giving, whether it's for the first time or whether you're doing reoccurring giving. We have 4 ways to give here at South Hills. 1, you can do it in person at any of our campuses through an envelope. Or 2, you can actually text any amount that you would like to 84321. And the 3rd way is to download our Church Center app. I encourage you to do this one because the Church Center app gives you opportunity to stay connected with our church and your campuses. It's a great tool and resource for you to know what's going on. And the 4th way to give is to give online. You can go to southhills.org/give and you can set up your giving there. Whether you're a guest of our church or whether you are a member of our church, or whether you simply just like to watch our services, I encourage you to trust God with your finances so that He can bless and anoint your finances, and you can be trusting God in this journey of living life to the fullest. I love you, and thank you for watching our online service today.